So recently I did a video about Captain America in Avengers Infinity War and in Avengers 4, and the question posed was, will Captain America die in Avengers Infinity War, and is it time for him to die? Same thing goes with Avengers 4, but I wanted to follow that up with probably a more intriguing question because of what this character has meant to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that is, will Iron Man die by the end of Phase 3? In other words, is Iron Man going to die? Probably not in Avengers Infinity War, but will he die in Avengers 4 next year? Let's discuss that. Joining me once again, he was here for the previous video. Now we're going to discuss the future of Tony Stark. Laughing Stock Cinema, Mike.
Hey guys, it's Mike here from Laughing Stock Media and Cinema. How's it going?
How's it going? So, in the comic books, and this is one thing I've always found interesting, Iron Man was never an A-tier hero. Like, he was a hero.
Yeah.
He was never an A-tier hero. You know, it was Spider-Man, the X-Men, the Avengers main comic, Fantastic Four. You know, they really sold a lot. Iron Man was never that big of a deal, except for a very brief time. But with the MCU, it's not the same. Because Iron Man is the first movie in the MCU, it changed everything. Then the sequels to Iron Man were not that good, but they still made tons of money. And because Tony Stark's been featured not just in Iron Man, but also in Avengers 1 and 2, Captain America Civil War, had a cameo in Hulk, was a big part of Spider-Man Homecoming, and will be in the new Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Really, Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Tony Stark has been the glue that has held the MCU together. It all began with Iron Man 1 10 years ago in 2008. They didn't even expect it to be as big as it was.
No.
Is it time now to move on and continue the MCU without the glue? This, to me, is much riskier than doing the Captain America death. Because with the Captain America death, you can always have Bucky be Cap. And Cap was important, but not as important and as, you know, much of a centerpiece as Robert Downey Jr., as Iron Man, as Tony Stark. So, is it time, by the end of Phase 3, Avengers 4, that Iron Man die?
I can definitely see it happening, even though he is such an important character, and really is that character, like you said, that no one really expected to become like this centerpiece in the forefront of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it just worked out that way because of just how well Robert Downey Jr. fit that character and just how well it meshed with, you know, the style that they were going for. And obviously we have, you know, Jon Favreau is somebody we also really have to thank for really setting up much of the framework and the foundation that would become the MCU as well. But when it comes to killing him off, as much as I wouldn't like, you know, to see a Marvel without him at this point, I feel like it could be coming to the point where it makes sense for his character, because at this point, you know, how much more room do we really have to explore with Tony Stark's character? Like, what else can he really do? Where else can he really go from here? Because, you know, even though they've kind of like backtracked a little bit on it, it seemed like at the end of like Iron Man 3, they made it seem like Tony Stark was basically getting to the point where he was done being Iron Man. And
yeah, wasn't he going to marry Pepper and all that stuff?
yeah, in Civil War, they had it, you know, they were on break basically, and he doesn't want to stop. He can't stop, basically, he was saying, but...
Well, remember, the whole story behind Age of Ultron, which I thought was, and this is why we're talking about this,
Yeah.
is that he felt that at some point the Avengers needed to stop, and that's why he created the Ultron program, because he wanted to have the armor all over the world, so that way, because they can't be around forever. Like, he recognized that, you know, and like, you know, nothing lasts forever, like, you know, Black Widow had said. So his whole thing was, this is what his plan was, you know, beyond even his own life. But then Ultron wound up being a big, you know, mistake.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right? So it's like he's already gotten it, the character, at least, in his mind, is already thinking about the finish line here.
Yeah, and, you know, even though it might sound weird to say this, it almost seems like in some ways Tony Stark is like grooming Spider-Man as his replacement, you know, not necessarily to become the next Iron Man, you know, he's already his own person, Spider-Man, but it seems like based upon how like they interacted in Civil War and then how they interacted in Spider-Man Homecoming, that not only is this like a father-son relationship basically, but it's also like Tony Stark is grooming his own successors. So is it too early though perhaps for him to actually like pass the torch to Spider-Man? Like, I mean,
the Iron Spider.
Yeah, like I really like Spider-Man as a character, obviously one of my favorite superheroes, but at the same time it's like, is it too soon for him? But then again, that's the question of who else is really going to die in this movie, if at all.
And also, who's going to be the centerpiece of the MCU? Now, it could be Spider-Man, Tom Holland, but there's a problem with this.
Yeah.
The contract with Sony. Sony has still a lot of control over Spider-Man. Is it worth Kevin Feige's, is it worth his, fraudulent slip there, is it worth him, working with Sony and having to kind of bend to their will, or at least work with them and not have full control of the character to be the centerpiece? I don't know, dude. This is a tough question because Robert Downey Jr. has been there from the beginning, and he's been involved in all the major storylines of the MCU that have mattered. Getting rid of him is... But here's the thing that people need to understand is Robert Downey Jr. can't play this character forever. I mean, he's not that old, so he could probably play... Realistically, he could play Tony Stark for the next 10 years.
I mean, look at Sylvester Stallone and people like that who are still doing action movies. They can really push it, but at the same time, it's just like, how long
he's
can you
52,
do this?
But he looks 32.
Yeah. Just how long?
Right?
How long can he really keep this up? It's just... Not to mention, it's like, how long does it make sense for his character to stay in this? Like, obviously in the comics, they can keep Iron Man around forever. But at the same time, it's like, when is it the best time for his character to, like, hang up that Iron Man suit, more or less? And, if it doesn't happen in Avengers 4 or Avengers even 3, I figure probably 4.
We're probably 4, yeah.
When is it going to happen? Probably soon after.
No, and not just that, but also how do you write him out? Do you think that he should straight up die in a battle with Thanos? Do you think that he should retire and give the Iron Man suit to Rhodey? Do you think that him and Pepper can just get married and just ride off into the life of privacy? Like, what do you do? We don't have any actual data on whether or not they're doing Iron Man 4. I wish they would do it. We talked about that recently as well and fix the Mandarin. Yeah. But, how would be the best way to get rid of him? Because I feel like dying might cheapen him. I feel like him and Pepper getting married, because that's the whole arc from the first movie is his relationship with Pepper.
Yeah.
So I feel like him and Pepper getting married and just not dying, but just retiring for good and giving the Iron Man suits to like Rhodey and maybe to Peter, those two. I think that might work out better than him dying.
Yeah, I mean, they don't...
But then people are going to say, when's he coming back? That's the other...
I mean, that is the thing. Like, if they leave them alive and they have them go on vacation, on a...
Maybe they're going to go to a coffee shop in Italy.
Yeah, they go and disappear, and then they're sitting next to Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle while, Michael Caine is wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like...
He smiles at him but won't even go up to say hi.
Yeah. Very confusing ending. And then a lot of people thought it was a dream, and Nolan was just like,
nah.
Mannequins. But
well, yeah.
But
no, continue.
Yeah, I feel like if they do that, it's always going to leave that question in fans' mind of, can he come back? And the thing is, they could always bring them back. They could pull a Sean Connery situation with Bond, never say never again. Except this time it'll be canon. And, they could always do that if they really want to. One thing I thought would have been cool that I didn't mention in our video about Steve Rogers and, Captain America's fate is that I think it would have been cool if instead of killing him, what they do is they use like the time stone to like send him back in time, and he like
to the 40s
again?
And
he like lives out. He goes on that date with Peggy, and he lives out his life.
He marries Peggy.
Yeah,
but that would fuck up the timeline completely.
I mean, it would, but it also would be a nice, just a nice.
Because her dying in Cap 2 is like an important thing.
Yeah, but
you're fucking up the whole MCU now.
Let's just do it. Screw it.
Let's just say he goes to the. he goes to the past of like another Earth, like Earth 697 or something like that. You know what I mean?
Where he just disappeared and then there's no time. Like, I don't know if the time stone would like cancel out like conundrums and everything, but that's a whole other can of worms. When it comes to Tony Stark and Iron Man, I think that if they kill him like in the fourth Avengers, like depending upon how they do it, it could be a good run. Like again, it's like Captain America. They had these good movies, Cap more than Iron Man though, unfortunately. And he was such an important character, but eventually it becomes time to move on to that next generation. But it becomes a question then of, will the audience also want to move on to the next generation? Or, will they basically turn them into nerdy jobbers who no longer train and then, bring their father back?
I mean, here's the trippy part. If you realize that as the way things are right now, Robert Downey playing Tony Stark Iron Man, he's got more roles playing the same hero than any superhero ever as far as theatrical films go. Like Michael Keaton had 2 movies as Batman, Christian Bale had 3 as Batman, Ben Affleck had 2 or whatever, even though he had cameos in Suicide Squad as Batman. Then you've got like Christopher Reeve was in 4 Superman movies. Iron Man has been in, I believe now 6, maybe even 7 if you count Avengers 4. I mean, if you don't count Hulk, it's Iron Man 1, 2, 3, Avengers 1, 2, 3, 4. That's already 7. Civil War's 8. Yeah. So he's been, and Homecoming's 9. So that's 9 movies where he has been the centerpiece or a main character in the film. And even if you take Spider-Man out, it's 8. So, like, nobody's ever portrayed a superhero as frequently for a big theatrical film as Robert Downey.
Nobody's ever made as much money as him doing it either.
Well, as far as we know, I don't. Maybe I don't know how much. Yeah, I guess you're right.
That's the only other thing I was thinking of. Before it's just like, does Marvel want to keep spending as much money as they do to keep him around? Not to mention like so often it doesn't seem like he's even wearing the suit either. Like they CGI the suit.
I don't think they have any problems. I don't think they have any problems making money though. That's the thing.
No, but like if they ever want to pinch pennies, is it like, do we need to keep Robert Downey Jr. around? I mean, some people have suggested them doing like the CGI, but I would hate that.
Right. I don't know. I just hope they don't pull Tarkin and CGI his face.
No.
And, well, I mean, they did it pretty good in the movie. So let us know what you think in the comments. Should Iron Man die by the end of Phase 3, Avengers 4? Or should they keep him around? I mean, obviously, I'm not saying you have to make Iron Man 4, 5, and 6. You could always have him just appear in other movies.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man 2. Maybe he'll appear in the Captain Marvel. Not the first one. Maybe maybe an Ant-Man he'll appear. Like, because there's always that Stark presence everywhere. So, I mean, they, not saying get rid of the character entirely, but should they? Do you think they should, and how should they? And also, please check out Laughingstock Cinema.
All right, thank you for having me on, and let's see what happens in the future of the MCU.
In the future. Bye.